Hey everybody, welcome to episode 1 of Scales Deconstructed. This is a new series that I'm launching, and it's basically just going to be a deep dive into a bunch of different scales. Each episode will focus on a particular scale, and you're going to get intervals, arpeggios, and dyads. So it's going to be broken up into 3 different segments, and I'm basically just going to give you a bunch of different patterns and exercises that should really help you, get a better understanding of the inner workings of scales and, what exactly is going on within every scale that we're playing. And for today's episode, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to start out with the G major scale. Hope you enjoy. Okay, the first thing that I would recommend doing if you're looking to get more comfortable with a scale is go up and down a bunch of different interval exercises. This is a really good way to help visualize the scale in a different way and start to notice different note combinations and different intervals and how they line up within the scale. And for this segment, we're going to go through all of them. We're going to start with thirds and work our way all the way up to sevenths. And there's going to be 2 patterns for each interval. There are an additional 2 patterns on my Patreon page if you would like to get the additional 2 on top of PDFs of all of the stuff that I'm going over today. You can go to patreon.com in my description and become a patron if you'd like. But the first pattern is going to be ascending thirds. So if you are unfamiliar with interval exercises and what that means, basically what it means is I'm going up the scale, but in between each note of the scale, I'm going to the note a third higher in the scale. So in this case, if G is my first note, 1, 2, 3, the third note is going to be B. All right, and then I just keep doing that throughout the scale. So we have ascending, and then we descend, the same pattern. Okay, so like I said, that's probably the one that you guys will be most familiar with if you've done some of this stuff before. So now the next pattern based off of those same intervals is I'm going to go ascending for the first one and descending for the second one. So now descending. Now we're going to do fourths. So same deal as before. The basic idea is that I'm just going up the scale, but in between each note of the scale, I'm going a fourth higher. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 notes in the scale. So now we have G to C instead of G to B. And if I go up in fourths, now I have this. If I want to go all the way up to the A and then back down. Once again, definitely a workout on the fingers, not the most comfortable fingerings that you're ever going to encounter. So the second pattern, I'm going to go down one and then up the other. So instead of going down both, I'm going to go. Okay, so now we have. Now backwards. Okay, so now we're going to be doing fifths, and this gets a little trickier because now we have some string skipping and we have some awkward fingerings again, just like with the fourths. But this time we're going to go from G to D for our start because, we're going to the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G to D. So now if we turn that into a pattern, we have. Okay, and then coming back down. Okay, now if we do the other pattern where we go down one and then up the other one, we have. Now reversed. Okay, now we have sixths, which are really pretty. So we're going from G to E. So if we run that through the scale, we get this. Okay, and then descending. Okay, so now we're going to change the pattern. We're going to go down the first one and then up the second one, which gives us descending. All right, last but not least, we have the sevenths, which are probably the hardest ones. They're the most jumpy and they have the most awkward fingerings, but really good to know. So we start with G to F sharp now, and we go ascending through the scale. We have this. Okay, descending. Now if we go down one and up the other, we get this. Tricky. Now descending that, we have so that's the interval portion of Scales Deconstructed. I would recommend getting as comfortable as you can running those exercises in multiple different positions as well. Don't just do it down in second or third position. Do it anywhere that you can, comfortably maneuver around a G major scale. And these are great warm-ups. Just do them with a metronome and gradually increase the speed. Experiment with different, directions within the scale. But for intervals, I think that's a really good starting point to get you more familiar and more comfortable with some of these scales. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing is arpeggios. So other than intervals, another thing that we can use when we're practicing scale stuff is arpeggios. And these are great because not only are we practicing technique, but we're also practicing theory. So if you're looking to get more comfortable with Roman numerals and understanding which qualities line up on which chords in the scale, this should help out with that a lot. I mean, at least with me, it really helped out with that. So now what I'm doing is I'm going through the G major scale, but off of each note of the scale, I'm playing the arpeggio that's happening. So the first, third, and fifth note in relation to whatever happens in the scale. So the one chord is G major, two chord would be A minor, three is B minor, four is C major, 5 is D major, 6 is E minor, 7 is F sharp diminished, and then the 1 again, G major. Okay, so if I just go up all of those, I have descending. Okay, and now with the additional patterns, I'm going to go down one and then up the other. Descending. That's the type of work that I would do in terms of arpeggios. And there's one more thing that I like to do through scales. This is going to be the last section of the video. So now we're going to be covering two notes, which are also known as dyads. Okay, so like I said, dyads is just another word for two notes being played at the same time. Triad would be 3, dyad is 2. And this is nothing crazy. All I'm doing is I'm taking the intervals that we did at the first part of the video and I'm just playing them together instead of doing them separate. So instead of going, I play that like the first two notes, I'll play them together, right? I'll play the second two notes together and just work up the scale in thirds. So now with that we have okay. Now we'll do the fourths. Now we have fifths. Sixths. Last one, sevenths. right, so that is lesson 1, and I plan on covering this with pretty much as many scales as possible, every scale that I've worked this through. And yeah, we're going to do a deep dive into each one of these scales. We're going to do the intervals, the arpeggios, and then the dyads. And these get a lot more interesting, especially when we get into like melodic minor and harmonic minor and some of the more exotic sounding scales. It's really pretty too with the major scale, obviously, but we get into some really interesting arpeggios and some intervals and stuff like that when we get into some of those more extended altered scales. So that's our episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed, and if you would like to become a patron, feel free to do so at patreon.com/MikeGaudetteMusic. And thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys at the next video. Take care.